Okay, so I'm going to share my screen really quick. Awesome. Okay. So the cipher that I decided to do was the Windtalker cipher. Oh, okay. So this method was used during World War II mainly, but they began to develop this code in World War I, and it was used by mainly the United States Marine Corps. So this method was used kind of like all over the world almost, it seems, because like it was based in like the United States, but they used it to send information such as like war tactics and like supplies and like men and all that, messages of that to the front lines of the war. So wherever the front lines of the war happened to be during World War II, so whether it be like Germany or somewhere in Europe or like all of that, then that's like where these messages were sent. So the ciphers created like many other ciphers, so that they could communicate important information to their troops without being intercepted and found out by other um, like opposing forces. So it was really just like a safety measure. And how was it used? So it was used in two main types of ways, but both were based in the Native American languages, Comanche, Hopi, Meskwaki, and Navajo tribes, and I probably really messed up those names, so I apologize for that. Um, but the first code was more formal and in depth, and it was encoded in the Native American languages listed above, and each word in those languages was assigned a letter of the alphabet. And to decode the messages, it was just like a simple substitution cipher. But if you didn't know like which words went with like which letter of the alphabet, like it was kind of hard to figure it out. The second code was more informal, kind of like, I don't know, I obviously personally it was like harder to understand, but they would directly translate English into like one of the native languages or like a mix of the native languages. But it was more like descriptive, since like the Native American languages didn't have words for like military terms because they weren't important to them at like that time. So they would like substitute it, like for example, like a submarine was known as like an iron fish because they didn't have a word for submarine. And so was the code ever cracked? So this is actually kind of interesting, I thought. The Windtalker code was one of the only codes to not be cracked during the war. Like there was probably like a select few that were never like figured out like during that time. So it was pretty secure, I would say. And this was mostly due to like the Navajo languages being like a mostly spoken language. So unless you had somebody who knew the code and also spoke that language, like you couldn't really understand what they were trying to get through and what they like their intent was. So that's part of the reason why it was never decoded or cracked or anything like that. But that is my presentation on the Windtalker codes, and I hope that you guys enjoyed it.